In last week's episode, as Grace Sloan Hospital gets ready for a possible lawsuit, the interns in Season 20 of Grey's Anatomy are questioned about operating on Sam. Schmidt uses a chest tube to save Dorian after he had a scare in the ICU. Quan acknowledges his error and says that thinking about Maxine was the reason he was nervous. As Never Felt So Alone started, Simone kept avoiding Lucas like he was the plague. Jo noticed her period was late, and Helma assisted Micah in her studies, though not in the enjoyable way Yasuda preferred. But before she and Link could even process that shock, they were called, along with Bailey and Owen, into the pit to prepare for an impending trauma. It turned out that the sloshed guests at a white coat party had been injured when a second-floor deck collapsed. Before he could attempt to play doctor in his condition, one of them, Simeon's patient, almost instantly stole away from his bed, setting her and Blue on a mad hunt to find him. The most catastrophic instance appeared to be that of Sophia, a medical student who had her spinal cord severed by a piece of wood. The strategy Owen and Amelia had was to take out the alien thing and cross their fingers. However, Lucas didn't appear to think it was sufficient. Owen pushed Amelia to try harder to treat Sophia while he operated on her. From the gallery, Lucas yelled out, "She would want you to." Beneficial. Amelia was dubious, but the intricate procedure seemed to have succeeded. Meredith also found out that Nick had brought little Bailey to the Boston hospital due to an appendix infection. She was not happy. Does she ever feel happy with her partner? Richard offered to ask Catherine to borrow her plane after he saw her attempting, unsuccessfully, to find a quick trip out of Seattle. Prior to takeoff, Mer made the effort to call Nick and chastise him for not calling her sooner rather than waiting to avoid worrying her. She was adamant that she would make all decisions pertaining to her children. Richard said, rolling his eyes, that sounded like it went well. It seemed he had time to simply take off for Boston as well. It became clear as Meredith worried out loud that one of her concerns was that errors happen, like the one that killed Durek. Upon learning that little Bailey's surgery had gone smoothly when Mom and Richard got to Boston, Mer dismissed Nick with her signature icy demeanor. Remarkably, Nick was the first person the boy asked for when he woke up, treating a patient named Gilbert with a rapid heart rate. Winston was distracted by the divorce papers he'd just been delivered, and he and Jules were both distracted by the professional cobbler that Gilbert paid to keep him calm. Later, when Dougal got angry that Jules hadn't prepped the patient for surgery, owing to his accelerating heart rate, she gave to call him on it. She was dying to learn from him, but not this version of him. What had happened to the coolest attending? When Gilbert had a panic attack en route to the OR, the coolest attending returned. He acted as the patient's cobbler. Once Winston was out of surgery, Jules apologized to him, and in turn, he admitted that he hadn't been bringing his best self to work lately. When Simone and Blue tracked down her patient, Eddie, he was on the roof, completely sober, and ready to let the wind decide whether he fell off or not. He wasn't sure whether he'd gone up there to hurt himself, he said. But it was clear that his doing so was not out of the question. By and by, Simone convinced him to at least sit down. If only he'd stayed down. "I think I'm broken," he said as he tossed his white coat to the street. "I don't deserve this anymore." As luck would have it, Ben happened to be visiting Bailey, so the Crisis 1 vet could race up to the roof to advise. "Calm down and keep him talking," he told Blue. If Eddie became unstable and went beyond suicidal ideation, Ben and Bailey would intervene. Eddie felt like he was just going through the motions. Blue reached out to him, sharing that the pressure and pain could feel unbearable. He knew all too well, but he was still there. At last, Eddie came down off the ledge. After Joe took a home pregnancy test, the results read negative. "Woo!" exclaimed Link, who had to admit that parenting was hella hard, and he was relieved. Only, wait, no. The test was actually positive. No, it was neither. The morning after, Joe was able to tell Link with certainty that she was not pregnant, but with him, she didn't want to have another kid. "I didn't get there," he said. "It's just going to take me some time." As the hour drew to a close, Nick barked back at Mer, pointing out that he had been there with and for the kids while she was away. "But I'm all they have," she said. Except she wasn't all they had anymore, he pointed out. "They have him too." Anyway, she'd actually come to apologize. "I've been doing this a long time alone. It may take me a minute to adjust," she said. "About a minute?" Nick replied. Amelia and Owen reported that Sophia could recover fully, and promisingly, she was able to wiggle her toes. Micah was stunned to learn that Levi had tried to get her on Sophia's case, but his co-chief had overruled him. In other words, her own girlfriend had stuck her on crap duty. "Taryn betrayed me," is how she explained what had transpired to Jules. Winston reported to Teddy that she was clear to return to work the following day. He needed some time off. Lucas happened upon Simone in an on-call room and asked if they could talk. She was too tired for that, but she did pull back the covers to let him climb into bed with her.